We can start. Good morning, people online. I'm really happy that you attend this session, which is based on a discussion. It's a discussion on the industrial approach, but at the level of the hub network. Then it's not policy. At the end of this discussion, we can join policy and industry discussion, but it's not the objective. It's only industry. What will be the different points that we can discuss today? It's what are the main operational objectives of this workshop? After the industry business inside the hub, we will analyze where we are today at that level, the Europlanet society. We will have to identify the cluster in Europe that we can collaborate with. Personally, I make a small analysis, but this analysis has to be discussed and consolidated by the different industry officers of the hub. And we will discuss, I hope, how we will initiate partnership. And the last point will be how we will promote commercialization using this network, or if we have to have a top-down approach. That's the major questions, or where we will manage the industrial, the industrial synergies between Europlanet and the different clusters. Yeah, as I said, at the end of this discussion, we can join maybe the policy aspect to this industrial approach. Where are we for the moment at the up level for industry? Then the first point is, as I said, do we have to have a top-down approach from the board or a bottom-up approach? That's the central question, because since I'm in the project, it's difficult for me to place the role of the hub in this particular business of Europlanet society. If we choose one of this approach, the bottom-up, we have to make a list of criteria in order to see with which cluster we will interact. We have to keep in mind that it's not an easy business because there exists a lot of clusters. Space Agency also has their own business cluster like ESA. In Belgium, we have a lot of clusters, and it's really a big exercise to see which cluster we will collaborate. That's a major question also because we are in a niche of planetology. Maybe we can extend a bit to space science, and it's difficult to see how we can be, how we can give support, or we can not duplicate the job already done in this cluster. To do that, we have to have a clear view of what we can offer to the industry. When we present ourselves as Europlanet as a huge community in the domain, and we want to discuss with a cluster or industry, we need to provide them the added value of Europlanet society in order for them to be, okay, I can give support from them in this domain, this domain. This is a very difficult exercise to do, but we need to do that because after the end of this project, the ERIM project, to run the association that we will speak this afternoon, we need to have a good idea of what package we can propose industry as support, what we can bring, have also an approach to push young engineer in the industry and so on. This is a matter of discussion today because we need absolutely to have a more clear view of the industry business in the society and what we can offer. Then I hope in the next two workshops of ERIM committee, the Industry Policy Committee, that they will explain us what are the different tools and approach they defined during this project. Yeah, okay, let's summarize what just I said. Where are you now today for the regional hub for the industry officer? Here we have on the 10th hub, we have 6 industrial officer, 6 hub with an industrial officer. I list some cluster that I identified in the framework of the activity of Europlanet. This cluster mainly are working with industry, agency, but also academia. That it was important for us to work with, to try to work with this cluster because they have as target the target of the society, industry, academia, and space agency. Then we have, I will not go through all the different cluster. I have a summary at the end of this presentation. If people want, I can describe a bit what are the objective of this cluster. We have some regional hub where we do not have yet an industrial officer. That's big hub, Germany, Italy. We need, I hope this during this meeting, to find people who can jump in the task and try to enter the network, because 60% of the network is good to have industry, but we miss many countries. That it's really important to recruit industry officer and for other committee also. But here we are in the industry session. We need to find people, and I hope that here at ERIM, at the end of the week, we will have some candidates for that. What are the questions that we can assess, we can discuss today? Then first, maybe have after, when I will send the presentation, or you will have access to the presentation with the list of clusters, we need to validate with the existing policy officer and with potential new one for the missing country to validate the list of the cluster. You saw that there are not a lot. There are clusters that we can act with, from my point of view, because I think we can bring support to this cluster in the framework of the planetology first, because it's our objective, and also space science. Then we need to do that. Then find officer of hub. I just said that, sorry. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Okay, as I said also, the question that we have to question ourselves today, it's how to increase interactivity, how to increase visibility. It's I just said we need to have a package when we want to interact with cluster to really list the added value of our society for them. This is something missing from my point of view, but there is only 18 months that I am in the society, and that's what I realized at that level of involvement in this. We do not have a clear view what we have. Yes, we have normally we discuss last month of a database. What is the added value to have a big database? Is this database already accessible? Then we need to discuss. Maybe we will have some information today, but there are two other workshops organized: industry policy workshop, and then probably ERIM, RI people, RI committee. Industry committee will answer this question. Yeah, and the next step is how we can work with this national cluster that we will select to promote the commercialization of the science, how to valorize the planetology, scientific input, output of planetology, and how can we valorize all the tools that you saw yesterday. We need to valorize all the job that has been done during ERI in different domains. But we need to promote. We need to have a proactive approach, a much more proactive approach. And okay, personally speaking, I think it's the hub, but we miss some dynamics for that because we are missing the real concept of planetary society for industry interaction. We need to clarify that. We need to have a document so that the industry officer have a clear view of what they can say and to speak about with the same language, the same objective, not disperse it, not increase the spectrum of what we want to do with them, but have a different guideline for the future in order to avoid the effect to duplicate all these activity. If we enter in the same business, we will never succeed to find our place in this industrial world. For the context, then we have now 1 year, because we do not organize PSC, we have some time. You have to keep in mind that the Europlanet RI project is ending in July. Final report will be probably in September. Then, oops. Okay. Then it's a perfect momentum to collaborate, to discuss, to try to, as we said yesterday, increase the communication between people and industry, but other also, because outreach communication is also part of what the definition of the how we can be visible for the industry. Then, as I said, no APSC, then we have plenty, not plenty, because people have their own job, but we have time. We have time to reach people from the RI project because they will not be involved in the organization of PSC. I had the chance to be part of some discussion last year. For Granada, it's a crazy way. It's time consuming. Then now we have probably more time with this specialist to discuss with. Yeah, and then, as I said, this is really important because around September next year, we will switch to the association. And association need this momentum. It's important because we would like to, not only for industry, but in my point of view, it's important because I'm an industry officer, but we need to really push people to participate to the development of business plan for the association, to have a brainstorming, not a huge brainstorming like we have 1 week, but we need to really to rethink on the structuration of the association. We will not be different from a European society. We do not replace European society. Association is a tool, a new tool that will offer other opportunities to to concretize the objective of this long project, 20-year project. Then it's really, really important to discuss the structuration of the association and the roadmap, the guideline for the future. We do not have, personally speaking, we do not have to. Sorry, I forgot what I want to say. That I go there. Yeah. Then we have now also a changement in the boards. If we restructure, we define the thing, then we need to find people. That's also really important, to have new people with new ID. We are working, I know that the hub are working, but it's difficult because it's difficult for new people really to define all the objectives. Some are well defined, outreach, what we saw yesterday, but industry. Policy also, it's a generic term, but we need also to have a rule how to attract, how to make a database of the people that we have to reach for the different activity of the society. That's a big exercise, and I hope at the end of that's the objective of this ERIM meeting, is to have a guideline, not finalize the guideline, but have a roadmap, and then so that people can enter some part of the objective of this roadmap, and then we can probably converge next year to have a clear view of what we will do after the ERIM meeting. Europlanet does not disappear. That's that you have to know that. But we can be now partner in project. Then we, with this legal entity, we have we will be more powerful to enter a big project and to collaborate, internationally speaking, as an entity. Yeah. Then we have to synthesize all this ID from the planetary community. We have here 200 to 250 persons, and we also have to increase, as we discussed yesterday, the communication between the different committees. Communication is always the key in every project, every structure. If you do not have a good communication, that's difficult to go forward. And we need to increase and find a way how we can work together, what will be the recurrence of the different meetings. I know that it's not easy because people have their job, but as I said, this year, the next 10 months, 15 months, we have some time to do that. And we will work on maybe to have some list of discussion. Okay, I will stop here and we can.
No, I just wanted to say that I don't actually think you necessarily have that amount of time.
Yeah.
Because I'll say something in a minute.
Yeah.
So don't be quite so optimistic on the time base. Because there are deadlines in March 12th next year.
Yeah. I'm industry is
optimistic
message. Yeah. No, but okay. We have this week to define the way to come. People will meet. People will maybe create group like you did at the start of this meeting. Then we have to increase the relationship between people, at least the one who are attendees, because it's more face to face. But time is always a big problem for Europlanet, because it's not easy, because it's a huge structure. Then it's really difficult to find time to really brainstorm on some objective and so on. But we need to find a solution, because the association need to have guidelines. We need to make a business plan, financial plan. Then we need your input. for industry, of course, but for the other committees also. Then I will let the different questions that I discussed during this presentation on the screen, and then we can discuss the point, the different point in the right order to collect ID. I don't say that we will have solution, but we will have some ideas that will be the base of the future discussion, brainstorming of how to be efficient to succeed to this objective. Thank you. Sorry. Well, who start?
I'll start. What I said, sorry. I think the link with industry, we talk about this on Marcel and Geronimo have battled with this project and on the previous projects. But just to put this in context, I got an email last night. There was a meeting at the moment. The Swedish presidency is having its search infrastructure meeting this week. They are focused on building clusters and everything else. Particularly, they're focused this week on e-infrastructure. But the issue for the academic community is that increasingly Horizon Europe funding is going to rely upon the fact that you also have links with industry. So last week I was at another research infrastructure. The problems that we have engaging with industry are not alone. We have exactly the same problem. Or Space 4.0, this is the next generation. It's meant to be, any space exploration is going to be a combination of the public and the private initiative. Europlanet or checking. Why aren't you engaged? Is the fact that maybe this is what we really need to get down to today. Is we find, I mean, I'm not going to play. Got Marcel here and Geronimo here and so on, and people before have tried. However, you know, there is a project Marcel led, helped coordinate last year and leads. This is the MOVE project. It was a project which is about technology. So the calls next year, for example, there's a big 15 million on the table for developing technologies, next generation technologies. I can't believe, I know the people in the telescope network and the people in the nuclear physics network all say, yeah, we need to build new detectors, we need to build next generation spacecraft, we need to do AI, we need to do this. But that project cannot even be put in unless we have strong industrial partners. Yeah. Until we have strong industrial partners. And I fear that we haven't got those yet. So how are we going to do that in the next 12 months? Then also, even on simple things, we've had 2 attempts to get a training network. We haven't been successful. One of the criticisms has been, again, where's your industry? Not just, you know, really tie them into the project. We haven't done that yet. So I think this is really quite critical. If we say that we have this thriving space sector, that thriving space sector means there is a strong industry. Why aren't we able to get that industry, which is supposedly thriving, needs people trained through our communities and our academics? Why haven't we managed to get them to come more integrated with us? And that's really what we need to work out this week. We need a policy and a strategy for doing that, because I think otherwise it's going to be a real handicap in anything we do in the future. I think we also need to think about the industry being a little wider. I know people tend to think, a lot of people think, oh, industry, oh, that means building something. But we mustn't forget the software, people, STM. It's a real success story of having people like that. But even other things, like, industry can be like gun, like the outreach industry and so on. I think we have to think about it more widely, but we have to break this logjam. Otherwise, I think we have a really, really serious problem in putting in those bids as part of our core strategy. So I haven't got an answer. I'm hoping today that some people are going to come up with some real good brainstorming ideas, because if we do not have a strategy and a roadmap for doing this, we will not be able to put in the bids we need.
Okay, maybe I can. Can you hear me well? Yeah. So I think, for instance, with industry, in all these sessions, we try to put actually exciting industry sessions, actually keynote speakers and things like that. But I think we succeeded on that, I think. But I think where we didn't was to draw the attention more of the academics. And I think that's where we should actually put effort, because our sessions were not that attended. I mean, we have really keynote speakers high up, and there was very little attendance by academics. And I think that's where we need to basically try to improve that. When you say why, okay, we did the survey, okay, in the survey there were a few answers which were, okay, we don't, academics were saying, we don't know how to interact with industry, so that's something we need to improve. And also the other was, they are unaware of opportunities on calls of with that that you can apply with industry now. Since, as you mentioned, this is becoming more and more common. In a way, it applies to most of the calls now. So I don't think that's an issue anymore. But I think that what we need to try to do it is, we have people who really want, okay, they're interested to work with industry. Others don't, they're agnostic kind of, but they might, but they don't know how. And others who are still yet not convinced, and we need to convince them that it's for the benefit for everyone. I think that in the list that I see there, what I see as more relevant is, I think number 3 is also, this is important, right? Because if we want to tell industry, okay, yeah, come with us, we need to know to tell them, okay, if you come with us, you will have this products, we can offer you this, and we don't have that. That's unclear, and that's very difficult for me. If I go to my company and say, oh, let's be a member of Europlanet, the first question is, what do we get? What is the, and if I don't have a clear answer, then it's over. And also, so that's why I was thinking about the first point about the level of interaction. Should it come also, I think we're mentioning Didier, whether it should be top down or bottom up. I don't know, perhaps it should be top down, I think, in the sense that the people who anyway wants to work with industry, that they would not see an impediment with that. Those who are a bit on the fence, maybe they feel a bit, okay, maybe we need to do it, because if it comes from us, it feels like it's imposed from industry, and I think that's not good.
Yeah.
I don't know. Marcelo.
Can I jump on that? Yesterday, we put on the table the fact that we do not speak a lot of science. And if for this technological call, industry would like to have also advice of scientific, because they have to work together. If they want to make a development of new technology, detector, but in other part of planetology, and Karin and other things, that we need to find how to introduce this scientific dimension in the offer that we can industry. Because for the moment, they work for them for hardware development with space advanced. They have their own science. And often I realize that the team was not covering everything, every scientific target for the science. Then we can play a role that Europlanet Society can provide advice in science. We have a lot of scientific We have the early career. It's really important also because then we can probably try to find a channel to bring young career in industry, not only in academic world. That's, I think we have to think how we can do that, but this scientific dimension will be, I think, something that industry will be happy to have as a support for the development of a project of technology.
I think this is a good point. The way that Europlanet has been set up was through the research infrastructures, and therefore many of the ways and these structures that we set up were related to enabling science, but not determining science. In the recent joint space project, the space side project, when we put all the major space research infrastructures together, it was the first time that specifically in the proposal, we set out what the science targets were. And we had a physical universe, a chemical universe, and a search for life. Now, Wolf Geppert is here, and the European Astrobiology Institute, which in many ways sort of overlaps with some of the things we do. But it does one thing that we don't do. It has working groups in science. Yeah. It has topical working groups in science. Now, we haven't done that in a Europlanet society, but there is no reason why that may be something that we could do, which would get more engagement of the academics, because it's, and maybe Wolf can tell us a little bit how it's done, because those working groups have I think, generated a momentum and generated other activities, which we're not doing in Europlanet. So if we want to do science, we need some kind of structure to show that. And then what you're saying comes on board, because then it's clear to anybody that there are teams of experts which they can consult. Now, it's a different structure. We haven't done that. But those groups kind of form, and maybe I'll hand over to Wolf, they kind of form organic. They just sort of self-assemble, don't they, Wolf? So I'm going to let Wolf just say something on that, because that may be a mechanism which interests that when you come onto our pages, you then see something in science. We haven't done it. It will be quite a big change, but it might be something we do because it answers your problem. That you have a Mars group, or you have a Moon group, or you have a technology group on detectors or telescope detectors, like the AWP are trying to do. But we haven't done that before. But in that recent proposal, it was felt that we needed to take control of the science. We needed to write at the beginning not only what infrastructure we were doing, but because it was so broad, we needed to set the science agenda. And on Thursday, we have all the other groups who are doing all these landscapes. We distilled all that into one page to say, these are the key science questions which we're going to address. And we hadn't done that quite that way before, and I think that was powerful. But maybe Wolf would like to comment on the AI, because I think that's an example.
Yes, so there are two things actually. Yesterday we had a discussion just on the hubs, and that was actually brought up that actually a thematic organization, I mean, would be similar to the hubs, would be good, because then you actually have a crystallization point of working together. In the European Astrobiology Institute, we have got working groups which cover the whole astrobiology in 6 scientific working groups, which cover the whole astrobiology. And then for smaller subjects, like, for example, protoplanetary disks, or, of course, the use of science fiction in promoting science, we have got project teams. And also these project teams have been quite active. So very recently we got funded a cost action from such a project team. So they will have 4 years actually to really build a community on protoplanetary disks in Europe, which is really a thing, because protoplanetary disks in astrochemistry, which I work in, are really now the big thing. So it's really, we are learning a lot about these features, thanks to ALMA, thanks to James Webb Telescope. So it's really a developing issue, and it's glad to see that out of these thematic groups can cost actions, and then you can get also funding from the European Union. For regional hubs, you might actually get funding from Benelux organizations or from Nordic Nordforsk organizations. So this is also possible, but it's easier to center people about a theme which it has a common interest. And you need, of course, a very engaged coordinator, because it also depends on the people. The second thing is about what I would mention, that we also have thematic working groups. And one of them is the so-called European Astrobiology Campus, which is our training unit. And we are having 2 to 3 summer schools every year on different themes in astrobiology. This year, it will be impacts and their role in the evolution of life. It will be the use of micro and nanosatellites in planetary research and astrobiology, and also the role of volcanism, plate tectonics, and hydrothermal vents in the emergence of life. Then on top of that, in our European Astrobiology Campus, we have got a so-called ERI Academy, where we pick 4 key subjects and we offer over 1 year, every 2 weeks, online lectures on this subject. This is organized by the Spanish Centro de Astrobiología and has been a huge success. There have been about 200 to 300 students attending this. They also get credits due to collaboration with the Tartu Ylikool, which we are very grateful about. And then also we have got our seminars, which also contribute to the teaching. Graduate organization we do not really need, because a graduate organization in Europe already exists. But it's important also to get students involved in the setup of the courses and which courses and which summer schools you offer, because as the old saying is, it is not of no issue that the fisherman likes the worm, the fish has to like the worm. So you have to order to offer the things that students are really interested in. And so far it has worked very well. So yeah, yes, please, yes. Yeah.
And how people join them, because I think that's when you
academics
engaged. That's the key point. Academics engaged. That gives you finally.
So what we did is the following. We made first. We actually at the first General Assembly before the first General Assembly, we discussed amongst the people interested which working groups we have. We could not really have hundreds, something like that, because we split up the community. So we then, after a lot of tweaking of the titles of the working groups, we have 6 working groups. Maybe we can display something here. Would it be possible? A website of the European Astrobiology Institute, where the working groups are. So we have 6 working groups, and we hope that we cover all the fields of astrobiology. And then we just asked people around over different networks who wants to join. And the thing is, you can join a working group even if your institution is not member of the European Astrobiology Institute, and if you are not European at all. So you can, as from the US or from Japan, you can join all these working groups. I mean, no problem. And so that we are working on, some of them are quite active. So they are producing review articles. They are trying to get, for example, cost actions. They are organizing seminars, symposiums, summer schools. Some are a little bit less active, but it depends mostly on the working group leaders, of course. So this is something we want to do. What we want to do in the near future is actually to have the working groups, because their themes are very broad. It has to be. When we cover whole astrobiology, we have 6 working groups. The teams have to be very broad. And so we are trying to create inside each working groups some focus subjects, which the working groups should be especially engaged in during the next year or years or so. And then we will try also to get funding for these project subjects, but these key subjects. So we will actually also try to get the working groups a little bit more focused also on special themes, which doesn't really mean that other subjects inside the working group field are unimportant, but really to get some crystallization points also for activities. So that was my fairly long answer, but I hope that I added some clarity to what we are doing and what Europlanet as a succeeding organization could do.
Yes, but in Europlanet Society, we have infrastructure and analog, a list of analog ERIM for planetary research. Do you have this type of approach with the infrastructure? We have also in the future project that Nigel mentioned, some really dedicated laboratory for optical design or validation and so on. And there are a lot of infrastructure that we can probably offer to if you do not have this type of activity, then they are involved. Perfect. Yeah, but we can also join for project because we will have a legal entity. Then
we don't have, maybe to the point, we have the infrastructure, but we don't have anything on our site that tells maybe industry what science. If you want a science question, come to us. We don't have that on our website. No. Maybe that's what we want. Yeah.
You go.
Yeah, so I'm going to bring something up which I've brought up before, and it was problematic. For me, it's kind of discussing the elephant in the room. Like, we've been sat here for whatever, 20 minutes, and no one's mentioned ESA. And the reason that there's not much discussion about it now is because it's problematic being involved in EU projects like ours and working with ESA. These two organizations don't really mesh very well. But let me explain, at least for my facility, how I get involved in industry. It's because ESA tells industry to come to me if they want to know about Martian dust. I'm on a list, I guess. And what would be really nice is if everybody here was on that list. Like, if there was a database at ESA where they know that if they want to know about Martian dust, or they want to know about solar wind, or they want to know about lunar something or other, then they go to these experts, and there are also these facilities. So ESA also has a list of what they call ground-based facilities. They have their own list. So for all kinds of different testing and calibration, they have a list. And we have a list. We have field analog sites, and we have a long list of labs. What I think could be very useful, so maybe you know this already, but how does a small industrial company, for example, in Spain, get to actually perform an ESA project? It happens by ESA publishing like a bid on their online system. This small company applies, and then ESA then makes a contract with them. And it is then usually they don't know anything, for example, about Mars, even though they're applying to do something for a Martian mission. And what is very useful for them would be to have this list of experts in Europe that know something about Mars and know something, and possible collaborators that have actually facilities where they could do a test. They would absolutely love that. I know that because they come to my lab and we work together. So the point is, how can this work? That's the question. we've discussed it before and not gotten anywhere. What might work is that if we proactively sort of present this list, this database to ESA and say, there it is, please use it, instead of trying to collaborate with ESA.
Yeah, I totally agree. In fact, we are in a similar situation because we have developed our facility in our institute. And the way we have done it is ask a kind of recognition by ESA. But it's, okay, it's a personal contact, and it worked because we were contacted by ESA to work for another project. So that's working, but it's, as I said, personal contacts, nothing in the structural, and that should be done. And I think that there, Europlanet could play a role to have a list really done. But I would like to make just a comment on what was said about the science working group. I think that's a very good idea, but it's not incompatible with what we already have in France. It should not replace the hubs. Yeah. It should be on top of everything. And it might be attractive for some members who are not attracted by the hubs activities. And that, I think that's a way to mobilize also our membership.
No. So I was just going to say that I fully agree with you. We have a lot of contact with industry, Airbus, small industries, but also big players. And they are very concerned by the return to the moon, actually. So we are identified by ESA as a lab for some experiment on dust from lunar regolith. And what I think would be good to build a link with industry is to be identified as a group which provide them with all the questions they may have about what is the environment on the moon, because they are very, very, very nervous about this. They don't know anything about the moon, so they are very nervous about this. And I think if Europlanet can appear as a group who is knowledgeable about the environment they may encounter, the problems they may face, and also the big goals of going back to the moon. Because at least in the first step, it will be science-led, the return to the moon. So they would be very interested by that. And in particular, if you say, oh, we know all the analogous on Earth where you can test your vehicles and stuff like this, that's something who will attract, which will attract them.
Yeah, so I would like to suggest a different perspective here. The question I would like to ask to everyone is, well, it's true that in every call nowadays, it's mandatory to have partners from the industry. But the real question is, why do we think the European Commission wants us to work with the industry? So what is the reason? Because in the call we participated in, I have a capacity building project I'm coordinating in Africa. We have an industrial partner, which is AAC Clyde Africa. And they were very happy to participate in the project for two reasons, because we gave them money, as simple as that. And because we open up the continent to them, because through our network of African partnership, now they can go to governments through our network and build satellites for other governments. So for them, it's a big investment. So I think we are on a two different level of communication. The industry, they want money. They don't want our knowledge. If they want our knowledge, they're going to buy it. And the second point is why the European Commission is pushing us to do something that we are not built for. Because we are scientists, we are not trained to do business. It's like a natural marriage for us. So in my opinion, the European Commission wants us to work with industry because they want to see that every project we run creates new jobs. Again, remember, for those that don't know me, I work in Africa. So every project that goes in Africa, it's about job creation and capacity building. So they ask us to partner with industry because they know there's no future in academia. So they say, okay, no, you have to work with a satellite technology industry because you as an academic, you train students in engineering, and then these students, they go and work for your partner in the company, or at least they can be trained by your partner, so then they can jump in a third company somewhere else. So I don't see this kind of discussion here, maybe because you guys are European, so it's a different question, it's a different environment. But for Africa, the question is Europlanet creating working ready people for the industry, or we are just capitalizing on money coming from academia? So are we creating students that go become academics, or are we creating future space engineers and so on?
Maybe I can answer part of that. So you answer half, but one of the answers is why they are pushing to work with industry is because research is expensive and they want to valorize research, okay? So that's one reason. The other, as you answer indeed, is that, as you know, most academics at the end, they end up, they don't have a job in academia, so they have to go to industry. So you have to also see it from the other way. It's not like you say, oh, we are training people that go away. No, it's the other, I think you have to also see it from the perspective that say, well, you are having too many people that you cannot offer jobs to them. They have to go somewhere else. So at least industry are taking them. So I think you need to try maybe to see that more in a positive way. But I think also is that the European Commission believes strongly that actually the best way to drive innovation is actually to collaborate together. I think that's the main thing. I don't think we should see it as a competition, but as something that we work together.
Okay, we have a question from remote.
Hi guys, it's Luca. Yeah. Sorry, I'm not there in the room, just nearby because I had other things to do at the same time. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So I just wanted to say one thing. I guess when you talk about industry, you are thinking straight away about hardware industry, right? So building spacecraft, building instruments. There is another type of industry or companies which are companies who are providing services. I provide services. You know, I create maps of dust from satellite observations on Mars. This is not the kind of hardware companies that wants money. This is a kind of company that, of course, you know, lives on money. I mean, everyone lives on money, even academia, you know, they are paid by the university after all, right? But they are very interested in providing kind of services that are useful for science, because we are scientists first of all, and then we have this hat of entrepreneurship, right? So let's not forget about this kind of companies in Europe. I'm not the only one, I guess. And maybe these kind of companies are more of a target than those companies who are building spacecraft, which indeed, you know, they tend to apply to larger goals and, you know, getting as much money as they can. So just maybe keep in mind that it's not only hardware, it's also software and services, okay? Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks a lot. To answer Fulvio, I know it's really difficult at the international level for the moment to find collaboration, but at the national level, for example, in our country, we have new program to try to connect with African academia or institute in different type of research. And every recurrent 2-3 years, we have an open program at the level of the Belgian science policy to push people from Belgium to collaborate and then to enter to consortium and to enter project. Then maybe it's for my answer, I'm not that high level in ESA and so on, but the national level will be also important to investigate for you in order to enter more globally the planetary community, because we are the Europlanet society. To answer, I don't remember your name. Yeah, John Morrison. Yeah, thank you. I fully agree that we need to have a list of contact and so on. ESA, it's sorry for it's a gas machine, ESA. But I always speak about products because there is a program, a non-obligatory program in ESA, which is products. They are working in all the domain of science, but also space science. And they treat a lot of projects. It's a matter of hundreds of projects managed every year. They have a list. They know, because products really is connection between industry and academy and scientists. There exists a lot of people who have the hand on the science, but in products we can, if we interact with them, with the administrator, we can have a list of point of contact in different domains, because I was talking there, yes, and projects cover a lot of subjects, hardware development, of course, but also scientific. And even for hardware, they needed scientists. And then at that time, we had this list. Then we can reactivate and then try to see if we can disseminate their database. I think to approach ESA is much more easy. Why? Because if you analyze the countries working in products, paying in program, and the country working in Europlanet society, there are great similarity. Then that's the best way for us to have the information in the framework of our activities.
I think Didier, I think one of the key things now this week is on Thursday, we'll bring together all the other space networks.
Sorry.
So I'm just saying that you're talking about engagement with ESA and so on and others and products. I think one of the advantages perhaps over the last 6 months is because we're now seeing that we're not all, that for Europlanet to do this on its own doesn't make sense. But if we form this, what I call the network of networks, with the nuclear astrophysicists, the observational astronomers, the radio telescopes, etc., we go together as a space community rather than trying to go as 6 different small organizations, because I think these issues can be addressed on that level. And then I think perhaps we will then get better engagement with ESA, because they will see that they can talk to one group, not 6 groups, because the common issues I think are the same across. So whether you're looking at, say, building a detector for looking at solar flares, or whether you're trying to build something to get water from lunar regolith, the general issue of talking to ESA about its engagement with industry is probably the same. So I think on Thursday with people, we have all these groups here, this idea that we actually speak on, I mean, as far as the EC is concerned and many other people, space is concerned only 2 parts. Space is either a platform for looking at the Earth or communications or something, and that's brackets the useful people. And then there's always people who want to do frontier science and explore the solar system and everything else. The looking out people, which is what we are. That's the grouping that we will try to bring together on Thursday, all those people, because I think then ESA, we have got ESA giving us a talk. They will be attending on Thursday, mainly focused on the human and robotic exploration program. But I think if we can get together and go together, then those sort of things about products doesn't divide planetary science, lunar science, cosmology. It's a technology for all space. So I think if we work together, we've got a better chance of getting a more coherent strategy. And I think that's going to be the key thing. We know Europlanet is no longer a research infrastructure operating on its own. It is a partner. It has the opportunity to be a partner with others. And in future, nearly everything we do will be in partnership in larger consortium. We will not be running our own Europlanet consortium. And I think that that mindset of stepping out and having to work with people will be really important. And I think that helps with industry.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, everyone, for the input so far. And I waited a little bit to listen to the comments and feedback from the audience. So, we started working with Europlanet maybe 4 or 5 years ago at this point in terms of the industry activities. One of the proposed activities was to capture a database of different capabilities across Europe. We've then put together the bid for this RI 2024, in which there was a big component of building on a bottom-up approach to try to get the support of local knowledge, because there's so much going on across Europe. We're talking about a booming space industry. And it's not only booming, it's also crashing. Many companies disappear quite quickly as well. So to keep track of all of this and to keep the information up to date is not exactly straightforward. The big observations I've taken away from the last few years of work is that when we talk about industry interactions, everyone in the room has a different definition of what that means. And we're talking about achieving industry interactions with Europlanet or with subsequent iterations of the infrastructures. And my impression is that everyone has got a different perspective on what it means, whether it is bringing big industry towards ESA, bringing small industry towards ESA, working with ESA or the European Union, working at the local level, working at the regional level. And we've done a number of activities across the years where we've done mostly a sort of a listening approach. We've done lots of sessions over the past few years where we ask scientists to come and tell us their perspective. We've invited policymakers to comment on what needs to be done between industry and academia. We've invited big industry and small industry. Luca mentioned, for instance, that you've got sort of smaller scale individuals with capabilities that are offered commercially. But then we've also had, for instance, last year, the participation of Airbus in Spain. Tomorrow, we have a session on industry, and we've managed to bring along a lot of players from the local network. So we've got small integrators from Hungary, from different countries. We've got a Slovak Space Office. We've got one of the biggest primes of Europe, OHB, participating through their Czech branch here tomorrow. So we've got quite a lot of participation on industry. And we don't really struggle reaching out to industry. Industry is ready to listen and respond. Where we've really struggled is to bring to the table the scientific community to act as an interface. So in all of these questions as to what do we bring to industry, given that there's so many different definitions of what we do as Europlanet, different scientists have different perspectives on what they want to achieve, it's very difficult to summarize this and provide a neat package that is an answer to all perceptions of industry or all types of industry. So I guess what I would like to conclude on here is that if we've got the breakout session later, for those of you who are interested in continuing this conversation, I'll be delighted to do more brainstorming on this. Tomorrow we've got this industry session, but I think that kind of the warning I want to give is that it's going to be very difficult to have a very clear goal defined in very precise terms in a landscape which is quite vague, with all kinds of different permutations and types of industry, etc., where the desires and the demands are completely different. And the final comment I would make is that it's nice to be, for instance, a source of knowledge to industry, but who is the person who coordinates that information flow from industry to the community and back? Because, we're receiving money here for industry activities, but we're talking about a few person months across 4 years. We're not talking about a full-time staff member who understands everything about every science case and who can then confirm that and carry on that information to the relevant partners across Europlanet. So it's a difficult job. We've not been not doing anything. We've been spending quite a lot of time in trying to build up the knowledge and understanding, even though the frustration is that the conclusion is it's still difficult, but we've been mapping things out. And I think the suggestion for going forward would be to start to either take limited steps and focused approaches to a few success stories. That's what we've tried to do. For instance, we've got here in this team, AcreST with the Explore project. Us as Blue Sky Space, we've been able to work together with Europlanet and the MOVE project. So there's a few tangible approaches what we're doing. But there are small steps here and there, and these are for small companies. Of course, then you've got product, but all kinds of examples working with ESA, working with a big industry, with bigger players, and that's on the hardware side very often. That's also a case study that can be done. But to do this consistently with the same framework for everything, I find it quite difficult. And frankly, we haven't found a solution to this.
I have a question. So now that Europlanet also has a kind of company, right? Is there any reason why Europlanet can't coordinate or even lead proposals, ESA proposals, ESA bids?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, I'm
not involved in that. That's not.
Well, I'm asking generally. I mean, people who are involved in the company.
I would say yes, legally. But you must understand that we are just learning how to do that. We don't have people yet, so it's us. Huh? So our view was, let's start as partners, and then one day when we will have a bit more structures, maybe someone paid to do that, then we might, yes, be leading projects. That might be, yes, that's the future plans. But in the some months that we have now, I fear that it's a bit too high. We must start confidentially at a lower level and then grow.
Regarding being involved in ESA projects, I think one action we can start from now is that when we answer personally, or company answer personally, we could state in the answer, because they want the background of the companies, that we are part of the Europlanet society. So at least it will be recognized as an existing organization, and later on, when it becomes more big or serious, then it can answer by itself, and it will be recognized and identified by ESA.
Yeah.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
We have somebody who want to ask a question from remote.
Yeah, just a follow-up question to the previous one. Again, legally, could Europlanet be the consortium leader for a space mission? I understand that it's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but in principle, legally, could it happen or not at all?
It happens in the States. The Planetary Society in the States is building its own satellite.
Yeah. Did you hear Anne-Karin answer? No. She said that it appeared. Sorry?
No, I didn't hear very much.
Yeah, Anne-Karin said that in the States, they have now their own project.
That's the Planetary Society.
The Planetary Society built its own project. But I go to the sense of Anne-Karin for the previous comment that we are already searching in Belgium to have support, but we have to go step by step. I said, we will probably make a business plan, and we need to effectively to step the thing. But this association is legal. That we could, in the mid-long term, be coordinator. That's a matter of proactivity. But we are thinking, we are working for that. Nigel?
That's great.
Yeah, I like the idea that one day we'll be running our own space missions, but probably not in my lifetime. However, this is part of the reason why we worked on the MOVE project. Maybe Marcel could just say a little bit about the MOVE project, because I kind of pressed, we've done this lobbying for the European Commission for calls, and we do get success. And how do I know that we were successful? Because the text that I sent in reappears, despite the fact that they then put grammatical incorrections and use colons when they should use semicolons. But the text was what we sent them. So we know that somehow we made some kind of success. One of those things was about this idea of novel technologies, and the idea that you could use CubeSats and nanosats for space exploration and for planetary and other science. So the partnership is, you know, we're just a small part of it. I mean, it's run by the three SMEs, and also could just say about it. I think that's a nice way to start, because there are things that perhaps that Europlanet can support that project, which the companies don't have. And this, one of the things is going to be, we build the satellite, we launch the satellite, but then the academics have to respond to use that satellite. And that's where I think part of the science base will come through the Europlanet. But Marcel, perhaps you could just say a little bit, because I think that might be a model of some of these partnerships. And that was the whole idea. And it got very high marks.
Thanks a lot, Nigel. I mean, so that highlights a little bit a number of points that have been touched on in the last few discussions here. For instance, one, that industry will typically partner with academia if there is some sort of framework around it, and by framework I mean money. The reality is that companies operate on very short timescales. They will pay attention to opportunities. They'll put in a bid. If it takes, 9 to 12 months, they'll pay attention. If it takes 2 years, forget it. They moved on to something else. Staff have moved. People move in companies, et cetera, et cetera. So the attention span of a company is in general quite limited compared to some of the scientific projects that can take decades, as we know. We've put together the bid for the MOVE consortium with the idea of partnering with a number of small companies across Europe to demonstrate that Europe can be in a leading position when it comes to space exploration using sort of a much lower cost off-the-shelf approach compared to some of the big capabilities out there. So, when we talk about space exploration, NASA often comes up as a big leading example, but when you're looking at the cost of their CubeSats, we're talking about very often $20 million, if not more. In Europe, we can do this much cheaper. But that's not something that people think of. That's not something that people have in mind. So the whole purpose of the MOVE consortium, where we work together with a Dutch company called IC Space, we work together with a Hungarian company called C3S. One of their representatives will be here tomorrow in person. That allows us to sort of promote the visibility of the capabilities across Europe. And one of the discussions we've had with a ton of Hungarian and other European, Central European companies is that for them, participation in science mission is maybe not lucratively attractive, but it gives them a visibility and a platform to raise their profile and their capabilities in ways that maybe other projects will not do. So, for instance, this Hungarian companies has no desire to compete with Airbus, but they would be delighted to be part of the supply chain to Airbus with components, with parts, with electronics, with know-how, capabilities, etc. And if they work together with the scientific community, that's really a shortcut way of getting there, especially in the context where with ESA and with the European Commission, if you include some of the smaller countries and the more recently joined countries as part of this consortia, you get high marks. So, of course, all of these small countries certainly are attractive to the big companies as well. So I think it's under that framework that we've put this together. And of course, we hope that this will be a success. But this is just an example where working together with the scientific community helps, because it allows us to give a platform of legitimacy in the context of credibility that this will be useful and valuable to the science. But also through the network of Europlanet, one of the things that we've always tried to be pushing, and that's why we've partnered with the policy team, is how do we make sure that industry also learns not only on the science, but also on the opportunities that come with science when it comes to putting in grants, deadlines, requirements. How do you write a proposal that will allow you to get your science mission funded? It's very different from an engineering project. So those kind of capabilities and assets, those are things that are within the Europlanet consortium. And I think that's something that we should really try to exploit and make more visible. But it's a ton of work.
I mean, that MOVE project had two parts, because you had to write the science case, and that's exactly what the sort of scientific community helped and ideas. But one of the reasons it got funded was because it was clearly stated that we were trying to do a novel business partnership, where basically the companies build the satellite, and then the scientific community applies for time on it. So it's much more going back like the telescopes or like communication satellites. And they really liked that idea. It was not just a novelty of the science. Can we actually make a UV telescope in a CubeSat system to actually do the science? But also, could we have a business model which would work for academic and industry? And I think we got both. We got strong marks on both of those, which is why it was so highly scored. And I think that was a nice example. The other thing is that there's an incredibly short timescale. I mean, they plan to build this and basically get it finished in effectively 18 months. And again, that is a new business model, that we're not spending years to plan something. You can build something which you could potentially get into space, start taking data in a short timescale. And again, that's a novel way of doing space exploration. You're not waiting years. You're using off-the-shelf components and things, and you're getting industry to do it, to work on a timescale that for industry makes sense. And it's also fitted in with Marcel because he's got it fitted into a program of other projects leading up to the final big mission, which is aerial. So it was fitted in that ESA strategy as well. So I think there was a lot of really good things, and the way that Marcel, and when it was structured together, it did the science, it fitted into an ESA strategy, and it fitted this industry initiative. And I think that's why we like to think it's a good exemplar, and we'll hear more about it tomorrow. But I think that's a nice way of showing that you can do something novel. But you need the science academic industry to do that. What Europlanet will do is, as Marcel said, these small companies, ask us, Mita and Sophia and the people in the room, you want to deal with the EU portal? No, you don't. You need somebody who understands the language of the EU portal, and even then, after 5 years, you don't. Companies can't do that. That's, again, something where Europlanet comes in. We've got that experience, that project manager experience, and we shouldn't underestimate that. And we can write the other bits. The industry couldn't write the bit on impact, I mean, that whole section. And if you don't get that, you don't get the project. So going back to Anita, again, that's where Europlanet knowledge as a society comes in. Watch this space.
Okay. No more questions from remote? No. Ah, okay. Yeah.
Just maybe one comment on what you are discussing here. Europe is known for a big success in registering patents from scientific research, and for the problem, not only in space industry, but in other industries, for the problem to transform these patents or research into an industrial project or business simply. And maybe in the US, they do this much better than we do in Europe. So your debate here is a difficult question, not only in our area, but also generally speaking in Europe. It's difficult.
Okay, thanks a lot for your comment. Well, left 10 minutes. I don't know if we still have questions. I think we had a fruitful idea. Oh, sorry, Geronimo.
Maybe in that list we should add the part on, it's a bit kind of industry oriented, but in the sense of also, okay, for scientists, right? The issue we are having is how do we get scientists interested in working with industry? And we see that there are concerns, there are valid concerns. So how do we, how we pass the message, right, that these collaborations are actually positive, right? I think there are many positives. We've been mentioning this in sessions, but it doesn't permeate as well, right? Some people get it, some don't. I don't know. It's how can we can make this better, basically.
Yes, this idea jumped during this discussion, then that's something that dimension that we have to add to the summary of this meeting, and I think it's a point to discuss still this week with people, and we will have probably a debriefing. I don't know of this ERIM meeting, and I think before we will think how to introduce this dimension in the Europlanet society business and link to the industry. I think we can have feedback from different people from ESA industry that we have in our network in the Benelux Hub, and then have a better description of what the first approach, what they want to have. We have big industry, small industry. We have now a new industry, aerospace lab, who is building very small satellite, and they have a big success. And then I already tried to have Bernard, the spare, Mr. Despair to have a webinar and so on to explain his success, but we can probably interact with them at the Benelux level at the first time, because we have a concentration of space industry and space actor like OHB is really proactive in Belgium, also in Belgium projects and so on. But we will do, and I think it's a dimension that we have to really clarify and then put on the website, and then explain that now we have time this year. ESF is working on the website, and then their evolution for the communication between people. Then we are converging to have tools more easy to use to communicate with all the partners and the individual people from society. This will be, you have to go to the European Science Foundation people. They can show you all these tools. And these tools of communication between members of the association is really powerful. But you need to have a small training, if I understood well, and I have to have a tutorial to be sure. But I think it's for the problem of communication that we had, this tool will improve drastically the communication between committees and people and so on. And as I said, communication is the first thing to do in a project. If you do not have a good communication, you do not succeed. Usually you do not succeed. Then go to this tool.
Thank you very much. Can I just ask for all of those of you who are interested in any of these aspects of industry relationship to please attend tomorrow's session, which will be happening at 2 o'clock in this room from 2 to 3:30. Then there's a coffee break, and then there's a networking session afterwards. The networking session, speaking of communication, is going to be a little bit difficult because half of the participants are going to be remote, half are going to be in person. So how we organize that would be something that might be worth having another discussion. And DJ, if you've got any ideas on that, I'll be happy to have a chat with you as well. The other point I wanted to raise is that right after this session, we've got the breakout sessions in this room as well. And there's one which is called an industry breakout session. Now, I don't know what this is. But if this is something that we want to use as an opportunity to continue some conversations and share some ideas, I would encourage all of you to participate in this and have a discussion and throw some ideas around of what we can do. I think the overall comment I would make is that from my perspective, and I think Geronimo shares that view as well, which is that for us to reach out to industry and get them to participate, we can do that. It's not always easy, but it's definitely doable. Industry regularly goes to conferences. They are used to talking to people. As Nigel knows, we've organized a meeting with the Hungarian and UK clusters a few weeks ago in Budapest. We're able to bring along a lot of people to the table. That's not difficult. The difficulty is bring them together at a table where also the academics are participating and where they want to participate. And for me, the biggest challenge that I see, and we haven't figured out yet, is how do we make these discussions interesting and exciting to the scientists? So if there's an EPSC session, why would they go to their science sessions when they could come to the industry session? Well, of course they go to the science sessions, but why would they, what can we do to make them want to come and talk to us instead of going to the science session? Honestly, I don't have an answer to that at the moment. But maybe that's the one.
Dangle the money. My final comment actually is a message from Anita, the boss. If you haven't signed up for the social event tomorrow night, please can you do it now? Go downstairs and pay for your dinner ticket. We want you at the social event. We want to have everybody together up in the castle. So if you haven't signed up for it, it's only €30 and it will be a really good dinner. Can you go down to the bench, the registration desk, and get your tickets now? I have now done my job for the boss.
Thank you. Then I still thank you for this very interesting discussion here and remote questions. And I think a lot of ideas have been put on the table. Then now we have to work how to manage everything. and to have a clear description that will be probably in the future, near future, come in the on the website. And yeah, I'm waiting also the next workshop from the industry policy, because we spoke mainly by with industry, but policy it's also connect. And then the next workshop will be interesting to see how we can work together with the policy committee and the policy officer in the hub, which is effectively, if we want to find funding, the most important dimension to see who we have to contact. And personally, I'm trying to make now a database of people from European Commission with the help of Eleni to try to have some target people for different projects, different structure of European Commission, in order to increase the visibility of association. The fact that we put this association in Brussels is also it's also important, because we are near everything, near Commission. We are near all the ESA, for example, as an office there, and it's very central place. That's why it was important to put this association there, because we are close. 20 minutes, we can have a meeting. Okay, thanks a lot, everybody, and hope to see you to the next workshop in industry policy.